So first I'd like to speak about the Commissioner's report. You released a statement responding that you felt vindicated, but also sadness. Maybe you can explain that.
Sure. I mean, I read the report thoroughly. I welcome the report from the Ethics Commissioner. It was a vindication for the independent role of the Attorney General, the independent role of the Director of Public Prosecutions. And that's incredibly important in terms of maintaining our institutions and ensuring that they are operating on an independent basis. So in that sense, it was a vindication, a lot of confirmation about what I've been saying over the past number of months. And the sadness came from the reality that we shouldn't have to think about upholding our institutions or upholding the rule of law. We have, as a country, I believe, functioned on the basis of principles and values that underline the freedoms that we have in our system of government, and it is important that we be constantly vigilant about upholding our institutions. And in that case, or in this case, the sadness came from that shouldn't be something that's a hard thing to do, and sadness that we are in this situation in the first place because we didn't have to be.
The Prime Minister says he takes full responsibility, but he cannot apologize because he was standing up for Canadian jobs. How do you feel about that?
Well, I've said before, I mean, of course jobs are important. I believe it's the fundamental role of the Prime Minister, any Prime Minister, to stand up for the rule of law, stand up for our institutions, the fundamental tenets of our democracy first and foremost. And we can't have and make decisions based on one person's will during a particular day or political expediency. We have to ensure that we uphold the rule of law. In terms of jobs, in terms of the Prime Minister not apologizing, I think it was a missed opportunity. I think that for me as a Canadian, it would have been nice, and I was always taught that if you do something wrong, that you make amends and you apologize for it. I think it was a missed opportunity for the Prime Minister to apologize to Canadians.
You are now running as an independent, and which is exciting. But why? Why did you not join another party? Maybe explain that.
Sure. Well, I never expected to be in the situation that I'm in, although I embrace the reality of running as an independent here in Vancouver Granville, and hopefully continuing on being a strong independent voice for the constituents of Vancouver Granville. I had opportunities to join other political parties, certainly engaged in discussions with Elizabeth May, for example, and Jagmeet Singh, but it was a hard decision for me to get involved in politics, federal politics in the first place, and join the Liberal Party. I align very closely with the values of the Liberal Party in terms of justice, inclusion, and equality. That hasn't changed. I'm still the same person that I was prior to the last election, still hold the same values. But for me, I didn't see myself trying to fit into another box of a party. And that's not to say that parties are necessarily completely bad, but I feel that my voice and working as an independent member of Parliament, trying to build consensus, trying to build bridges and address issues from as much of a nonpartisan position, speaks to who I am, my worldview, but speaks to where I think the country needs to go in terms of addressing substantial issues like the environment and taking action on climate change, Indigenous reconciliation. The only way we're going to address those issues is if we're working all together and establishing and coming up with solutions that will stand the test of time.
I had read in an article about blind loyalty. You don't want to be a part of that.
Well, I believe strongly in teamwork and the necessity of working together, but I was raised based on certain principles and values and having integrity and being able to look oneself in the mirror when you go home at night, knowing that you've done everything you can and you've lived by the values and the principles that you were raised with. And I will always operate like that in my personal life, of course, but certainly in my public life and professional life. There's no world that I can see where loyalty to party can trump one's principles and values, or doing the right thing and telling the truth. In the culture that I come from, if we don't tell the truth, if we don't operate based on those values and principles, then our society dies, and we need to be constantly aware of ensuring that we do the right thing. So that's how I will continue to lead my life.
You've promised to change the way politics is done. Maybe explain.
Sure, it's part of it, absolutely. I got involved in 2015 because I truly believed that we could do politics differently, change the way we make decisions, ensuring that all 338 members of Parliament are contributing towards discussions and debates around fundamental public policy issues. I believe doing politics differently means, as much as we can, moving away from partisanship in the sense of having these debates in an adversarial environment where one person says that their view is better than the other person's. That's not how we work towards creating consensus and long-term solutions. At the same time, I think that our party system is good for organization, but it's gotten to the place where there is loyalty that is required to be given by members of Parliament to their leader or to the Prime Minister. And I believe it should be the other way around, that the Prime Minister or the leader of a party is responsible to their individual members of Parliament, who in turn are responsible to their constituents. So as an independent member of Parliament, I think we need more independent thinkers whose only boss are their constituents. So the people of Vancouver Granville are my bosses when I go to Ottawa.
Your former party believes that the Trans Mountain Pipeline is in the national interest, and now that you're not in that party, has your stand changed? Or it is a tough question. I saw a bit on your blog, so
okay. It's a difficult question I should say it is a polarizing issue here. There are many people that support the expansion of the Trans Mountain Pipeline, just as there are many people that oppose it. My views have changed somewhat since the original decision was made in November of 2016. I do not feel that we're in a position, or the government's in a position, to expand the pipeline, given at this time my uncertainty about the economic benefits for it, concern about environmental protection along our coasts, concern about how we're going to, in a real way, transition to a clean economy, to clean energy. We have 10 years to be able to substantially address climate change in a real way, and that's going to take action by everybody. And also in this area, we need to make sure that, in all areas actually across the country, that Indigenous peoples are fundamentally involved in decisions that are being made, or development projects or pipelines being built on their traditional territories. So people that hold the proper title to the territories are involved in those decisions. It's going to be a controversial issue, but I do not believe that the necessary conditions are in place for the expansion of Trans Mountain.
On September 20th, your new book, From Where I Stand, will be launched, and I know you're not allowed to say too much, but can we expect a tell-all about the SNC-Lavalin affair, or is this something more?
It's not a tell-all on SNC. It's not a memoir for myself. It's a book that I wanted to put out for a long time, since after I was regional chief. It's focused on Indigenous reconciliation, what we can do, what people have been asking for decades in terms of how to create the space for new relationship, for rights recognition. It draws from a series of many speeches that I've given over the course of the last decade. And I look forward to it coming out. I think that issues around Indigenous reconciliation are fundamentally important to this country. I hope that it is a significant election issue and that we once and for all challenge political parties, elected officials, to create the space for transformative change in the country and have Indigenous peoples be able to self-determine for themselves their futures.
Everything sounds great. It sounds like you're in a great spot. You've got the book. We're in your new campaign headquarters, the commissioner's report, of course. Are you in a good spot? It looks like it.
Yeah, I feel content with where I'm at. I feel very comfortable going into the next election. We have received overwhelming support from people right across this riding and across the country for that matter. We have an amazing team of volunteers that continues to grow every day, that's out on the doors, making phone calls, we're fundraising. So I'm really pleased about the support that we're hearing, and walking down the street, people coming up to me and expressing support that way as well. So I'm looking forward to the coming weeks leading up to October the 21st, and I hope that, and I will work as hard as I possibly can to re-earn the trust and support of the people of Vancouver Granville.
Well, amazing. Good luck, and thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.